Okay, so you've probably heard a million times how blockchain is going to change the world. But while all the headlines focus on public networks, big companies are quietly building something totally different. We're talking about private, permission blockchains. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this walled garden approach and see how it's actually reshaping business from the inside out.
Right, so let's just get straight to it. If public blockchains like Bitcoin are this massive breakthrough, why aren't huge corporations like, say, Toyota or Pfizer running their entire supply chains on them? What's the holdup?
You know, the best analogy for this is actually something we're all familiar with, the internet versus a company's private internet. The internet is wide open. Anyone can connect, anyone can build on it. But an internet, that's a closed, secure system. You have to be an employee, you need a password, and your access is controlled. That's exactly the difference we're talking about here.
Yeah, and this is the core of it. On a public, permissionless network, you have no idea who you're dealing with. So you need these really complex, energy-hungry systems like proof of work to create trust between total strangers. But in a private, permissions network, everybody is a known, vetted member. The trust is already there because of their real-world business relationships. That means reaching an agreement, or consensus, is way, way simpler and faster.
Okay, that makes sense. You're trading total openness for control and speed. But what's the real payoff? Why would a group of companies go through all the trouble of setting up one of these private networks? What problem does it actually solve?
It really boils down to one major thing: fighting friction and bureaucracy. Think about any process that involves multiple companies, shipping, finance, you name it. Right now, every single company keeps its own separate ledger. This creates a nightmare of paperwork, constant checking and double-checking, and just delays. The whole point of an enterprise blockchain is to give everyone a single, shared, trusted version of the truth.
And this is where it gets really interesting. For supply chains, you have Walmart being able to trace a shipment of pork from a farm in China to a store in Ohio in like seconds instead of a week. In trade finance, you can automate this mountain of paperwork between banks and importers. For Wall Street, you can settle a stock trade in minutes, not the 2 days it takes now. Or even for compliance, a bunch of banks can share one secure customer file instead of all doing the same background check over and over again. It's a huge efficiency gain.
So, these examples sound great, but is this just theory, or are there actual real-world platforms that companies are using to build this stuff right now?
Oh, absolutely. This is well past the theory stage. The two heavyweights in the enterprise space that you'll hear about constantly are R3 Corda, which really grew out of the financial world, and Hyperledger Fabric, which is this big open-source project managed by the Linux Foundation.
So let's start with Corda. This quote from their CTO, Richard G. Brown, really nails their whole philosophy. He realized that for businesses, especially in finance, you don't need a global broadcast of every single transaction. What you need is an unbreakable, shared record of a specific agreement just between the people involved in that agreement.
And that idea is baked right into Corda's DNA. Data is only shared on a need-to-know basis. When a transaction happens, consensus is only reached between the participants. The rest of the network doesn't even need to see it. This gives businesses the privacy they absolutely have to have, while still creating that rock-solid shared record.
All right, so the other giant in the room is Hyperledger. Now, Hyperledger isn't a single thing. It's more like a greenhouse for a bunch of different open-source tools and frameworks for building enterprise blockchains, all under the umbrella of the Linux Foundation.
The philosophy behind Hyperledger is all about being modular. It's like a box of Legos. You can pick and choose the parts you need. You can plug in different consensus algorithms depending on your business case. You can write smart contracts in languages your developers already know, like JavaScript. And crucially, it's designed to connect with all the legacy IT systems that big companies already have.
Okay, this all leads to a really fundamental question. The whole original spirit of distributed ledger technology, of blockchain, was decentralization and transparency. But these enterprise systems seem to be all about control and privacy. How do they square that circle? How do you balance that original ideal with what a corporation actually needs?
They do it by changing the goalposts. For a business consortium, the goal isn't to create a completely trustless, anonymous, decentralized utopia. The goal is much more practical. It's to create one single, unarguable record of truth between a specific group of partners who already know each other.
And that's all made possible by the fact that it's a permission network. Since you know exactly who every participant is, you don't need to burn a country's worth of electricity on proof of work to create trust. The trust is already established by contracts and business relationships. The blockchain just becomes the technology they use to record their interactions in a way that nobody can ever dispute.
It kind of leaves you with this big final thought, doesn't it? Maybe for the really complex ways businesses need to work together, the future isn't just another app on the public internet. Maybe it's these private, shared ledgers where all the partners can operate with a level of trust and efficiency that just wasn't possible before.
Hey, if this breakdown helped you make sense of enterprise blockchain, do us a favor and hit that like button, share it with someone, and subscribe for more explainers like this. Thanks for tuning in.